Okay, just a short little update. Sorry I haven't gotten any decent videos out, but just sore and, slow going. That's the front axle diff mount swing arm thing. It's not all welded up solid, and I may change these lower ones to give me more steering depending on the wheels I choose and, if it runs into it or not, basically. But none of that's welded solid and it's not like fully braced up, but the general shape is there enough for me to make the pivot point and the suspension bits. And so I'm almost got that to that point on the rear axle. It's kind of not as well built, but I'm going to weld the shit out of it and square it up as best I can. Well, square up the axle line itself with the line of the two swing arms and all that. But the rest of this is all kind of crooked and whatnot, and I don't care about that. There's critical measurements and there's non-critical measurements. I don't care about some of it, as long as you pay attention to the parts that matter, that really matter. And then there's the frame still in its state, just sitting there. So that's that, and I already got the parts to make the suspension-y bits, so I have all those bearings. Well, I don't have the, and I did not order the, shocks, the little, cheap little shocks. For now, once I get to that point anyways, if I don't have them yet, I'll just cut stuff that's about 5-6 inches, piece of pipe or something, and put in their place for mock-up until I get them. But so yeah, I went to the forge and with one of my bearings, and they told me this was what they had. So I gave them the bearing. They went searching for something. I said, as long as it's as thick as this little lip on the bearing and comes damn close to fitting the bearing, but not bigger than the actual bearing, then it'll do. And this is what they come up with. I think it has paint on it, so I'll have to clean it up a bit. But and no, this is enough to make two for the front and rear. So both this piece of all thread, 5/8 by the way, if you're wondering, this piece of all thread gets cut directly in half. There are probably more than that I need to take off of it, depending on things. But I'll cut both of these, the piece of pipe directly in half and the all thread directly in half, and then clean up the ends on the other sides where I haven't cut yet. Put the bearings, and I am making it to where the bearings are loose fit. I like that. Now, if this was a super high speed thing, like, a wheel, yeah, that's not great. But this is just the suspension-y bit, and these bearings are shit, and I have a lot of them, so if there's an issue, I want to be able to just pop them out. And, I dropped one on the other end there. But yeah, for this part, I don't think that needs to be too critical. It's all overbuilt for what it is anyways. And then that's how I'm going to mount it. So that's going to get cut in half as well, plus probably modified even further, each piece. And then, drop down. Oh, I didn't order enough, did I? I only got one of those. I got to go get another one the same length for the other side. I forgot that I got to have this piece is going to get, cut in half, but that's for one end of the front. And then I got to have another one the same size as that. So I'm missing one more the same size as this. I forgot about that when I was at the forge the other day. Yesterday, I think it was. Or no, was it the day before? I don't remember. Anyways, yeah, I'm getting close. I've been worn out a lot. And when I went to weld up some more stuff, I realized how tedious welding can really be. Hey, I finally made use of that one piece I made that was going to be part of the way I mounted the axle before, but I changed how I did it, but still made use of that piece, so it wasn't for naught. That divot actually comes in handy for where I have it placed and to pull the axle and stuff. So that worked out. Everything works out if you just be patient and just take your time. Don't be afraid to mess up. Just take your time and things will work out. But yeah, as you can see, I don't know if you can see it on camera or not, but none of this is square. These two they're just tack welded in, so if I have to, I can adjust. But they were tack welded in and everything, and most of this was braced up with the diff in there. Granted, they are slightly off. I don't know how, because when I went to take the diff out, it was like, I think it's the plates, or it's either the surfaces are machined on the diff itself, not perfectly parallel to one another, and one of them is like off at an angle or something, slightly. And so when I went to take it out, the way that it comes out, which is that way, I think that off angle is like that, like a wedge shape in that direction, and it made it damn near impossible to pull out, and it took a while. So I'm gonna run a flat bit, up and down on both sides, and then measure and whatnot, and see if that's the case on there. If it is, then I don't really know what to do about it. But if it's just the fact that these are a little off and wonky, I might just kind of file and surface, and the way it goes in and out, I can't really. It's like this won't be able to squeeze together like it used to, like with the gasket and stuff. So I'm just gonna have to rely on good quality liquid gasket maker kind of stuff, or silicone or something. Which, for what this is, there shouldn't be a lot of pressure buildup. It just needs to hold some oil in, some hot oil in, or grease. I mean, So should be fine. We'll see. I think that's the diff that I might wind up replacing anyways. Yeah, that's the one. And so, if I can get this made pretty much universal to where it fits this type of diff, and fits the front one and the rear, fits no matter what, I'll probably just replace the diff eventually. And yeah, I don't know, use that motor on something else, take it off of this diff, because that's a very high RPM motor. Probably low torque at that RPM, but, it's a very high RPM motor. It's wound to give you a lot of speed, but then they got it through this 9-to-1 diff here, gearbox diff thing, and that gives it a lot more torque, because motors that are wound for a higher RPM have less torque. Motors that are wound for a lower RPM have more torque. Why they didn't just wind this for a lower RPM and eliminate having a gear ratio diff, I don't know. That would make more sense. But whatever. Maybe they did this because they want it to where you use less power to have that much torque, but it takes the same amount of power or energy or joules or whatever to move a certain mass at a certain rate, no matter what. So I don't know efficiency as far as I'm concerned. This whole end here is a waste of space. This could have just been a motor with a bit like this attached to it, and then basically this just be a jackshaft bit, and then, axles come out of it or go to a chain drive or whatever you wanted to use it for. But they didn't do that. I might do that with it in the future then. I don't know. You'll see. But yeah, this is just a quick update. I'm probably not going to do any work today. I did kind of file the edges of these where they cut it and it marred all the edges a little bit. I did just to see how easily it'd be to get the bearings in there, and just cut up the little crazy bit where it was, cut or file down that, and they fit in smoothly with enough easiness that they fit in perfect enough that the lip on the bearing overlaps all of that enough, and that's thick enough. That's more than thick enough. I asked them for something that's as thick as the lip on this, and they didn't have anything that thin. So they gave me this overkill piece of pipe, which will do. In the sake of progress and getting parts and getting it done sooner, I went ahead and got it because it'll do. And I need this thing to weigh a lot too, because I'm gonna use it in the snow and stuff. It's gonna need to weigh a lot. I need traction, which, having these diffs with the 9-to-1 gear ratio comes in handy because of the RPM, the way these motors are wound. But I originally thought these motors were just going through a diff, and these were torquey wound motors like the one I have on my trike. The one I have on my trike only spins at like 400 or 500 RPM, and it's a hub drive, direct drive. These ones spin at like several thousand RPMs. Let's see if it says on here, or not several, I guess. Oh, yeah, at 48 volts, they spin at 1800 RPMs. So I'll be running that at 84 volts. So little less than double that. So yeah, several thousand RPMs. But that means less torque. But this will be good for a little speedy go-kart or drift trike or something. Just direct drive off of it. No torque, something lightweight, hardly any traction. This will be good for that. Take it off this diff. So that'd be fun later, someday. And then I'm still wondering if I should just rebuild this rear axle bit. How many times did I rebuild that one before I settled on that design? Now I'm designing this one, and this is pretty much how I want it. It's just, I don't know, I didn't make it perfect or square in any capacity whatsoever, and apparently not even this dimension, which was, like I said, bolted to the diff when I did it all. So something's wonky somewhere that I had no say-so in. And then the rest of this is wonky because, well, I just didn't give a shit. But I'm thinking I might start trying to give a shit, and I don't know. Some of these welds are more permanent, so that's why I'm like thinking I'm just gonna let it be, because these are not mission critical. Like if it's perfectly straight this way or that way, as long as this is with the axle in it, anyways. And that's another reason I'm not gonna mount the suspension pivot bits that I make. I'm not gonna do all that and mount it and weld the other halves of those bits, the hinge bits, to the frame until I get the wheels, so that I can set everything down on its wheels. It'll sit, both ends, the front and rear will sit the way it needs to sit, and then I can weld to the frame, put a level on the frame and everything, and level it, measure it, and make sure on both sides the frame is even with the wheels and all that. Basically the redneck way of making it good enough, I reckon. I don't know. That way you don't have to fuss with paying attention to all the little measurements. If you have the time and the energy, yeah, make it look pretty and make it square as you can. It's always better, of course. But if you don't, and you're like me, and you know sometimes those measurements and perfect squareness isn't such a big deal, then do it the way I do. I don't care. I don't think it'll matter too much. I mean, hell, you've probably seen my other scooter, and it's nothing on it is square. Every bit of it was just eyeball thrown together in a hurry to get it going. And it still goes straight. So I think this will be fine, because I'm putting more attention into this than I ever did on that scooter. But that's also because it has 4 wheels, and it's more likely to list one way or the other than the trike. But yep, that's it. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Hopefully you look forward to, the suspension-y bits getting made and the frame finally being attached to that. That'll be a little bit, but I'm getting there this coming month, which I got paid a little early. That's why I already ordered and went and got the stuff. But this coming month, throughout the month I'll be making progress on that, finishing this, or not finishing it, but getting it to where it's the similar, it's got the swing arm bits and stuff, so that I can start working on the suspension-y bits, making the hinge pivot point for each, and then I don't know that I'm gonna directly weld the pivot point onto these first, or if I wait till I get the tires to weld it all onto either end, because there's this bit that gets welded onto the swing arms, and then there's this bit that gets welded onto the frame. So 2 halves to a hinge, one half goes on the swingy bit and one half goes on the stay still bit. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna measure and square up this to the ends of the swing arm and weld it on as best as I can, squared up with the axles. So, and the same on this one, and then just wait till I get the wheels to do it on the frame, I guess. That's probably the way I'm gonna do it, because I'll get it close enough that it won't be a big deal. And I'll be having, I ain't got the nuts yet because I had to go to 2 different stores. The store that I wanted to go to get this didn't have it, so I had to come back to another store and get this, but then that store didn't have the nuts to fit it, and I didn't think about that when I was at the other store, and then so one of these days I'll go get the nuts to fit it, but I don't need them right now. But when I go to do it all, it'll all be bolted together, sturdy, so that everything's nice and square and whatnot with the pivoty bits. So that won't be a problem. But yeah, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think.